Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, going to be giving you guys a full Power League guide. So as you can see, already got Pinhole, Ash, and also yesterday I got halfway through Masters, and I was like second ending the day. At the moment I'm 12th, so I feel like I've got a good understanding of the meta, also compared to some competitive games as well. So hopefully you guys can push up as quickly as possible and hopefully unlock Pinhole Ash if you haven't already. So before we jump into it, then make sure you're using a create code. That'd be greatly appreciated. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Okay, so jumping into the first game mode, we have Bounty. So as always with these types of videos, I'll be time stamping all the different game modes and maps. For the first one, Shooting Star. So the Shooting Star meta, again, really hasn't changed too much except for the introduction of Gray and Mandy. Like, Gray can sometimes be an okay pick, of course. I wouldn't really recommend picking him at the beginning because he does get outranged. Might take him a long time to get his super, but can be a decent pick overall. But you can see by the picks on the screen then that I think Mandy is probably one of the best brawlers for this map. I haven't played it a ton Shooting Star yet to fully test it out, but played against Mandy a few times, and even though you have to stand still to extend your range, I think it's insane because with his star power it's so easy just to lock down your lane with Mandy, and of course she outranges everyone with this, and it's like impossible to miss your shots when you're standing still down that lane on Shooting Stars. So I think she's the best pick. Then of course you got all the other picks. Grom, really annoying to face off against right now in the meta, specifically on Shooting Star. He can lock down that middle really well. You've also got Sprout, that can be a good early pick as well because he can tank nanny heads, tank a lot of damage, but also just be a pretty safe pick overall. Piper, always pretty strong as well. But yeah, nothing really changing from the Shooting Star meta. Everything pretty much the same here, and I just feel like it's just down to how you kind of play out the game because you can win with pretty much any combination on this list. So next up we have Canal, Grande. So Canal, Grande, nothing really changing about this map. I feel like aggro brawlers are a little bit easier to choose on Canal Grande now. You can go for a few different strategies, of course, depending on what you really want to play. You can either go with like some tankier options, as you can see in the example draft. That was actually SK Gaming on Queso Cup yesterday. You know, Ash can be pretty good to establish control of the bushes. Like, I wouldn't recommend going like 3 aggro brawlers or Poco double tank. Just maybe going 1 to get control of the grass, and then have a couple of sharpshooters or support brawlers to help them and back them up. But yeah, some really solid choices overall. Gray is absolutely amazing on Canal Grande. Of course, he can use the super to go across the water. You've got his Grand Piano that's going to break literally the entirety of both grasses. So you've also got a spare gadget after that, which again is just absolutely insane. You pair that with other sharpshooters, it's going to be really hard for the enemy team to really do anything. Jean, always a safe option. Eve is an incredible like first pick or early pick because again, you can float across the water. She's got good gadget to get out of danger, and just overall a lot of value with her. Brock opening up the map pretty decent overall. And again, you've got to be careful of throwers. I didn't really put like Tick there. I don't think Tick is the best, but like Grom and Sprout can definitely be some solid options. Buster, you always got to be careful of that one. But a lot of choices in Canal Grande. As always, it's always about getting that mid control because once you lose it on Canal Grande, you're literally screwed. And lastly, for Bounty, we have a Layer Cake. So Layer Cake, a really interesting one. Again, I feel like Gray is such a fantastic pick. So the weird one is, you know, I won't repeat myself too often, is that Gray's pretty hard to hit his main attack right. Like, it can take a while to get his super, but it's all about cycling his super. I've mentioned this a few times, but it's all about cycling super, you know, targeting those brawlers. You know, you can like 2-shot or even 3-shot without much, you know, resistance, you know, like throwers, for example, sharpshooters. You know, Gray's going to have a field day on those brawlers. Any brawler that you can easily teleport on and just destroy very quickly, Gray's going to, of course, be really strong, and of course he's going to be able to break open him up against tanks and throwers. Those are going to be the types of rulers he's countering the most. So a fantastic first pick pretty much everywhere. Great at the moment, and I think better than Chester in Power League. But overall, again, you got some pretty safe picks. I think Buster is just insane on this map in general because down the lane there's not a lot that can really, you know, deter a Buster over and over again. You know, normally it takes a couple of brawlers to take down a Buster, so definitely good on Layer Cake. Jean, always a good first pick. Grom as well. I feel like you can safely pick throwers on this map in particular because there's not really a lot of aggro. There's a lot of ways to counter aggro on a map like Layer Cake, and Grom and Sprout are so good when it comes down to Layer Cake. Gus as well, really underrated by a lot of people. I think he's not picked enough in Power League, but in competitive he's picked so much and has such a high win rate. Of course, you can go with your tanky options towards the end as well. There's a lot of different options in Layer Cake. So now moving on to Brawl, starting off with Super Beach. So again, you've guessed it, Gray is absolutely insane here. Literally ordinary brawlers except for Mandy are such strong first picks. Like Buster, again, it's going to take multiple brawlers to deal with a Buster. So that's why I normally just ban out Buster every single time. I feel like that really improves my Power League experience overall, because I feel like, again, if your teammates aren't wary enough, Buster can like 1v3, so incredibly strong. Chester, I think Chester's best game mode is Brawl right now, specifically Super Beach, because if you guys didn't know, when you have your super and you die with Chester, you respawn with like the Dynamite super, so you can basically use that to destroy one of the lanes. So even though you're against like a throw, for example, you know, eventually you can start opening up the map with a Chester, and overall just really good against tanks, so it can be that kind of safety option. Same goes with B, always good against everything, and especially there's just so many wall break options in Brawl, you know, roofs, griffs, we've got the likes of Grey as well in the meta, Chester, all of these brawlers opening up the walls. It's just really going to allow B to thrive in Brawl. And then last picks, you've got to be really careful of those throwers. Literally 4 throwers I think can completely dominate on Super Beach. You know, you've always had the likeliness of like a Barley last pick on Super Beach, but now Dynamite with a buff is actually pretty strong, as long as it's not like aggros or a lot of wall breaks. You've got Grom as well, of course, can even be played a mid on this map. He's absolutely insane. You know, you've got Squeak and even Ash as a last pick as well, so a lot of different options on Super Beach. Still pretty much the same meta except for those new brawlers. So next up for Brawl, we have Pinhole Punt. So again, we've got the best picks on this screen, so I always think that B is pretty much the best pick early on when it comes down to Brawl, just because you can easily dominate if the map does end up breaking open, and even if it doesn't, be still a really solid option. Grey on this map, of course, his one gadget I believe can literally destroy the entirety of the middle grass, so it just makes it really hard for you to go certain compositions when you know a Grey gadget just breaks open everything. You know, that's going to be nerfed pretty soon, I hope. Anyways, Otis a pretty safe first pick option when it comes down to Brawl, just because again he's got the range and just good against tanky brawlers. You always want that safety option in Brawl. Like, you don't want to go like 3 of the same things, because it's so easy to get countered. And Brawl in particular, Chester as well. Chester's just insane on Brawl. You know, he's a really strong ladder brawler right now. I think Chester gets picked too much in Power League, but for Brawl, I think it's fair enough, because he can easily scout the grass with his attacks on this map, and then also, as I mentioned, with his super that can break open walls. Pretty strong overall, and also just incredibly strong against tanks. You know, it deals like 7k shots, 7k damage with a few shots, so of course gotta be careful of that. Buster as well, really insane. If you've got good team synergy with Buster, or if you're paired with like a Poker and a Max, it's going to be so incredibly hard for the enemy team to really take you down. Crow's really good at scouting the grass on this map. Again, Throw is a pretty dangerous last pick. You see in the gameplay, Grom is an insane last pick on this map. If you've got good accuracy with Grom, you're going to be able to destroy people in like 3 shots all of the time. And of course, a lot of different options. Always be wary of either like a thrower last pick or a tank last pick. And lastly for Brawl, we have Sneaky Fields. So this one is a little bit more advantageous in terms of more tankier options or more aggressive play, because it will just literally be dependent on who gets control of the middle grass. So that's why you see a lot of tanky brawlers just running in and getting control of that grass, because then you're going to dictate the game basically if you're in that grass, right? So for first pick options, again, you've got B just incredible in Brawl, need to say no more. Chester as well, just being able to scout the grass, and then obviously once you start ramping up your sequences, you know, once you get to the 3rd and 4th stage, you know, Chester can just absolutely delete anyone in the grass. So that's why he's really strong, especially with the vision gear. Then you got Buster, he's able just to walk up any lane on this map, use his gadget just to get easy kills, also get easy goals as well. It's really hard to deal with a Chester pushed up in the grass. You've also got Grey that of course can destroy literally the whole map, need I say anymore. Janet is actually really good on this map in particular because of her gadget, still prevalent in this map in particular. And Penny as well. Penny's just good because you can put Penny as a mid or a lane, which is always pretty safe towards the end. And again, Sneaky Fields, you've got to be really careful of those tanks and throwers in particular on this map. You know, Barley can really lock down a lane. Same goes for Grom. So you've got to kind of, you know, go like a hybrid combination all the time. You've either got to go like an aggro brawler yourself if they have last pick, or a wall break, else a thrower is just really going to dominate. You need brawlers that can really have good pressure on those throws, else they're just going to hold the entirety of their lane literally the whole game. So yeah, a lot of different options in Sneaky Fields. Just go have fun with a draft. Okay, so now starting off with Gem Grab, start off with Hard Rock Mine. So as you can see on the screen, these are the best picks for Hard Rock Mine. I feel like Rico is a really strong pick on this map, always has been, but you've got to be really careful of the Buzz last pick. If I were you and if the enemy team have last pick, I would end up banning Buzz because he's actually such a strong pick on this map. You know, I'm literally one of the world's worst Buzzes, and you see in the gameplay, I was actually kind of popping off with him because of how easy it is just to target Rico over and over again with his grapples. Yeah, be careful of that Buzz last pick. It's definitely a power pick on this map in general. But again, got a lot of different options that you can pick in Hard Rock Mine. To be honest, you can't really go wrong with any of these because there's a lot of different brawlers that can win lane. You know, in terms of mid, you can definitely go the likes of Gene, Bell, Max. 8-bit, I'd only really use 8-bit maybe towards the end of draft, or if Penny's banned, because 8-bit used to be this brawler which was used pretty much all of the time in competitive, and then people started using a lot of Penny against 8-bit and it just completely hard counters him. So obviously be careful if you want to go 8-bit. Gus again, you can play Gus as a lane or in mid on this map, really good value when it comes down to gem grab. And then also you've got the likes of Johnny, of course, just insane on the lane. Cole, really good for pressure. I feel like you've always got to have a couple of pressure brawlers, at least one, just because you want to relieve pressure off your gem carrier so they can pick up the gems, but that's going to be harder at mine. Let's open to the next one. So next up for gem grab, we have a double swoosh. So there's a few maps which I haven't got any gameplay for, unfortunately. You know, I've tried to play a lot of games to get gameplay of every single map, but of course not entirely possible when it's look based. But anyways, double swoosh, the same type of meta, kind of is really prevalent. You can see in the gameplay in Queso Cup yesterday that, you know, brawlers like Buster, for example, are just absolutely insane. It's just so easy just to gain a lane. Obviously, if you don't have your super, you can just pair up with your teammate around the middle, and then eventually when you get out super, you can easily push up. There's not a lot of things that can deal with a Buster without shield. He's so incredibly OP. Of course, Gene really good with vision gear right now, and also with the new mythic gear, he's going to be able to pull people across the map pretty easily. Crow really good at scouting the lane, but also really good once you get your jump onto the gem carrier. Gray can break open the entire map. Chester's really good on this map in particular because, again, his kind of spread of attack is really easy to scout the grass with his attack right on this map. You got Janet with her gadget, really easy to scout. And then again, you've got the generic kind of brawlers that are good towards the end of the draft. You know, Grom can be pretty strong on this map with his vision kind of gadget, but you kind of get the gist of it in double swoosh. It's all about vision, intel, making sure that you're always scouting the grass, breaking it open with brawlers like Amber maybe, but just making sure that you always got your lane on lockdown, specifically down the left hand side, so you don't get pressured too much. But yeah, that's pretty much double swoosh. Nothing really changing. There's a lot of different brawlers you can choose from. Can't really go wrong with any of them. And lastly, for gem grab, we have Crystal Arcade. So again, meta shifting a little bit because there's a couple of new brawlers that can wall break. You know, Chester on this map in particular is incredibly strong because you mention it time and time again in Crystal Arcade. For 2 lanes, all you need is a small wall break and it's completely open. As long as that brawler with that kind of open ability has good range, they're going to be able to keep that lane for literally the entirety of the game, and that's why Chester's so strong. That's why Ruffs is really good. That's why the likes of Gray can be pretty strong as well, and that's why as well Penny's always drafted pretty early on. It's because you can send her lane or mid. You know, that turret can always be in a safe spot. There are a lot of walls when it comes down to your defensive area in Crystal Arcade, but again, the same type of brawlers in gem grab. Again, you just got to be careful of those more so aggro brawlers on this pick, making sure you have either an aggro brawler of yourself or a wall break option, or else like brawlers like Ash and Buster just going to completely run through you. Ash in Power League right now as the last pick is so incredibly dangerous. Got to be careful of that one, but I think the same type of brawlers in Hard Rock Mine, to be honest, not much really changing. It's just up to you how to respond. Like, I can't teach you how to draft every single time. You don't always have to use the brawlers on the list, just making sure you're reading the draft as you go along. Okay, so now moving on to Heist, starting off with pit stop. So again, the theme with Heist in this meta, it's all about damage, or at least brawlers that can defend well hybrid and then turn their kind of defense into attack pretty well. So pit stop, I think this summarizes Heist as beautifully as possible because you can either go some more tankier options or the kind of hybrid brawlers like Nita and Ems. I absolutely love this map. So as you've seen by the graphic, Daryl, I think, is probably the most safe pick because he can counter pretty much everyone. He's good against tanks, good against throws once he gets his wall, and good against a lot of brawlers that are picked here, you know, like Rico, for example. Ruffs he can roll on top of pretty easily. Ems as well, he can deal with Ems quite well. Just overall, Daryl's a good hybrid option. And then the likes of Neat and Grey are really strong on this map in particular. I feel like Grey, you've got to go with, of course, some more damage options. But, you know, once you open up the map with Grey, once you get your teleport rolling, you know, the only thing he's going to struggle against is tanks because, of course, he doesn't have absolute infinite DPS. But overall, he should be able to win so many different matchups. You've also got Ruffs. Can never go wrong with Ruffs on this map. Eventually breaking open a wall, giving your teammates the power-ups. You know, it's such a strong option. Otis as well, pretty much good against everything. Penny can be somewhat okay as well. And then we go for the last picks as well. So again, this is what I'm talking about. You've always got to have some sort of aggression or wall break against it because, you know, a Dynamite can be absolutely insane if you don't have any aggression or wall breaks. He's just going to run the field easily. Same with Barley, same with Grom. So making sure you've at least got one of those options in the draft, else they're just going to completely wreck you. So you've got other strong picks as well. Depends how the draft really goes, but for me, you know, you could even double up on the aggression because it's really vital just to consistently keep up the pressure, because, you know, as the game goes on, you know, even if the enemy team has control for like 2 minutes of the game, you just need one solid push, you know, with tanks or with high DPS brawlers, and you're going to be able to swing the game into your favor so easy. So next up for Heist, we have it Safe Zone. So as I called literally when Grey was released, I said Grey was going to be the better brawler in Pinhole because of that gadget. And again, in Heist, even though he hasn't got the most DPS, and I do say that damage wins pretty much all of the time, I feel like he can definitely go at a brawler like Grey and then go to DPS brawlers, because again, he breaks open the lane just like you always want in Safe Zone. You always want maybe one brawler that can open up the side, just makes it a lot easier to advance up the map and not get spawn trapped. But Grey can just break open that wall, and then of course once he gets his first teleport, there's just so many meta brawlers on this map where he's able to two-shot so easily. He's actually got really underrated like quick burst potential. So yeah, really like Grey on this map in general. Griff is a really solid first option on this map. You know, Griff is kind of falling off the meta a little bit as people learn how to kind of keep the distance. You know, Griff isn't the best in 1v1s completely, but on this map he's really good because again, you can break open the lane but then keep up the pressure with his business resilience star power. That's why you see him first picked a lot in competitive, because it's just really good at getting pressure and getting control on this map. Brock again, so insane, just so good at getting damage on this map. Colette as well, you know, that's why you see a lot of 8-bit on this map, so good at getting damage. And as I say time and time again, damage really does win in Heist. So have those damage dealers, don't be afraid to just go completely aggro for this safe, because of course that is the name of the game. Okay, and lastly for Heist then we have Bridge Too Far. So as you can see by the graphic on the screen, again, you've got a lot of high DPS brawlers, a lot of brawlers that can get quick damage onto the safe once you get a couple of kills. So that's why 8-bit I think is probably the best brawler on this map in particular, because of his extra credits gadget. I used to think that was trash like a year ago. It's actually really good in Heist, especially, you know, once you get your lane. You know, either as the enemy you've got to just tank all of that damage and die, or it's got to go onto the safe, right? So much damage potential onto 8-bit. All you need really is a couple of kills, and then you can turn your attack into like 40-50% damage pretty instantly. So that's why 8-bit is really strong. And then of course Colette just really strong at cycling her super, keeping her lane with the gotcha gadget. It's really hard to contest a really good Colette down the lane. Brock as well, just really good. You've got to be careful against Max though if you do want to use a Brock, but overall of course he's really good at getting damage. Bonnie as well for this map is just really insane because of course of her super. You can literally jump across all 3 lanes and take down a target pretty easily. B as well, just good in those 1v1s. And Eve is really good on this map because although she doesn't have the most DPS, just really good at helping out either lane. And then you've got your last pick options. You know, Cole can be really good at taking down certain brawlers. Same with Daryl. Grom as well. You've got to be really careful of a Grom last pick because wow, he is so toxic on this map, especially with his gadget. He can just slowly chip away the safe and you won't even realize, because it feels like Grom shouldn't do that much damage, but he does. He'll literally take down 50% of a safe nearly with 3 gadgets, so be careful of that one. Again, a lot of different options on this one. It is a very 1v1 map, so it's all about getting the right matchup and trying to win your lane as much as possible. Okay, so now moving on to Hot Zone, starting off with Ring of Fire. So this map has actually been one of my more weaker maps. I always struggle on this map in general, so I don't really know completely how to draft on this one, but I think these are pretty much the most solid picks when it comes down to this map. So B, Grey and Max can be really solid options on Ring of Fire in general. Can never go wrong. Of course, Ring of Fire, always say make sure you're focusing on the mid as much as possible. Of course, once you maybe get a few kills, make sure to push up and spawn trap them. But overall, as long as you're not allowing the enemies to push up into your spawn, and as I said, like you got to really focus on that middle, because before you know it, the enemy's going to get such a big lead. So Gus as well, just insane on Hot Zone in general. Really good at pairing with any aggressive brawler, just any brawler in general, because the extra damage you get with the shield and also just survivability is always the name of the game on Hot Zone. You want to stay onto the zone as much as possible. Chester really good on Ring of Fire because of course his attack can easily hit enemies on that zone, right? It's like impossible to miss your shots. And then you've also just got a lot of different supers that can easily help you get back control or keep control. Meg as well. So Meg in Hot Zone I think is the best brawler. Meg is absolutely insane, and to be honest, I'm not completely sure how to counter her. I feel like once you start ramping up the levels with Meg, it's so hard to get her off the Hot Zone. So For me, if you're a good Meg, make sure you're picking it because it's absolutely insane on Hot Zone. And last picks, to be honest, I don't think last pick is that important on this map. One of the few maps where I won't really care about last pick. So a lot of different options. Again, it's just how the draft kind of goes. It's a pretty hard map for me. Okay, so now moving on to Dueling Beetles. As you can see on the screen, these are the best brawlers. So again, B is going to be absolutely insane when it comes down to Hot Zone. Gus as well. I think Gus is one of the best Hot Zone brawlers. Again, there's no really reasons to explain why he's so strong, so good at getting control with that shield. And then you got the likes of Buster. You've got to always be careful of a Buster on this map. If you don't have any wall break options, Buster, once you get, maybe if you win the first engagement, you know, if he sits behind those walls and Dueling Beetles, how are you supposed to take him down? It's impossible. So making sure you either pick him or ban him out, or at least have some kind of answer to him. Stu, really solid in Hot Zone, of course, with the Speed Zone turret. Really easy to keep control with it. And of course, Meg. This is probably one of the more weaker Hot Zone maps for her, but still think she's a solid option overall. So then 6th pick. Again, you've got to be careful of those throwers. So for me, what I like doing a lot of the time, you know, if an enemy, you know, if really popular picks like Penny, for example, Lou, Squeak, all brawlers that can really lock down a lane easily, I like to run wall break because, of course, you know, Squeak's gadget and Lou's super won't have as much value if you have like a Griff, a Bow, any type of, or Grey, for example, to break open the walls. You know, it's going to be a lot easier to push back and not get spawn trapped. So a lot of good options on Dueling Beetles. Only played it a handful of times. I feel like it's pretty simple in the draft. Okay, and lastly for Hot Zone, we have Open Zone. So this one, you've got to be really careful of a few brawlers in particular, because if the opponents start to draft a couple of these, it's nearly impossible to win. Like, there's a lot of power pick brawlers on this map, so those power pick brawlers are going to be pretty obvious. The first 6 are literally the power picks, so making sure you're getting them as much as possible. You know, be on this map, going to shut down everything. Stu with a Speed Zone, so valuable in the early stages. That's why I just absolutely love picking him on this map. Max as well. Combine Max with any brawler really on this map. It's so easy to regain control, and especially when the first engagement. And then you got Gus as well. I think this is Gus's best map because of how easy it is to hit shots on this map. And also, you know, you're always going to get value out of his shield when you're on the middle part, because again, it's just really obvious where the enemies are. Then you've got Poco. Poco, you've definitely got to be careful of the opponents picking Poco, because although it seems really open normally, that's Poco's like worst maps. On this map, it just seems to do really well on it. And Meg as well. This is Meg's best map as well. She's so insane on the Open Zone. So making sure you're either picking her or, I don't know, making sure you get a counter to it. But, you know, once you get a couple of these brawlers in their first pick category, you just absolutely dominate on this map. So got to be really careful of that. Of course, there's a few strategies around it. It's pretty hard to, you know, really concise and go into detail so in so little time on this video. But, you know, a brawler I like to go actually against like Stu and other brawlers like Meg is Pam. So Pam's a really underrated pick on this map, but a lot of different options to play around with, and it's always kind of up to you how you adapt to the draft. Okay, and lastly, moving on to the final game mode, we have a Knockout. So with Knockout, I feel like this is the game mode which I understand draft the least about, just because there wasn't any competitive data. I always like to analyze competitive data when it comes down to draft. Of course, that's probably the most important ways to learn about draft. But anyways, from the few games I've played already this season, I feel like these are pretty much the best picks. So again, Gina Knockout, always one of the safer options. Grey feels like he's an insane brawler on Knockout. Again, one of these brawlers where it has like a powerful super. He has one of the best supers in the game. And then, of course, once you get your super, you can just pick on any target you want. And especially if you combine, you know, Grey with like a really good aggressive brawler. You know, one strategy I did on this map is use Grey with Fang, because once you got a Fang super, a Grey super, there was hardly anything stopping it. It's just so much aggression. You know, unless you have, there's not really any tank counters on this game mode, right? So it's just really hard for the opponents to shut it down. It was such an easy win. Of course, the likes of Gus, again, one of his best game modes, really, really strong on Knockout. Eve, really good because she can manipulate around the water. Grom, such a powerful pick as well. A lot of brawlers to be careful of on Goldarm Gulch, but I feel like the meta is definitely shifting more so towards the newer brawlers. Okay, so next up we have Knockout out in the open. So again, meta not changing too much except for the introduction of Grey. I don't think Chester is good enough. Maybe Mandy is an okay pick. I haven't really talked about Mandy at all. I'm not too sure how she fares off in the meta. A little bit of an awkward brawler overall, but maybe this is a good map for her because you can be really passive for her. But anyways, the best brawlers again, Grey, Gadget, Shock. You know, once you get your super in Knockout, kills, of course, it's the name of the game. So being able to open up with your super, well, open up this kind of scoring the lead with your super and get a kill is really vital. First kill and knockout is so crucial, so that's why Gray's really good. Gus as well, need I say anymore, he's insane on knockout. Brock really good at opening up the beginning stage. It's always important to have a wall break to open up the beginning, because basically if you don't open it up, you're really suspect to getting spawn traps. So of course you don't really want that. Grom just insane everywhere on knockout right now, and of course Eva really solid brawler overall. And then again, a lot of different picks which you can start to draft if your opponent goes certain brawlers. You know, Nanny for example, if the opponent goes a long range brawler like Belle, Piper, even Gus, Brock, then Nanny's an insane option on knockout. A lot of different options to go with. Let's jump into the final. Okay, and lastly for the final map, we have Belle's Rock. So I think I've played this map once. I don't think the meta's shifted at all, except for the introduction of Gray, of course. So again, make sure you're picking it or banning it out. A little bit of an awkward brawler sometimes. It's just all about getting that super right. So Gina as well, knockout, really easy to use. Gus as well. So all these brawlers you can't really go wrong with. Brock, really good on knockout, especially this map. Only takes, like, of course, it's got 3 wall breaks, so that's literally the entire mid portion basically opened up with Brock, making it a lot easier if you combine it with other sharpshooters like Gus, like Piper, like Belle, for example. It just makes it a really good synergy. Grom is just insane on knockout. He already was really strong on Belle's Rock, but now he's literally a power pick, so make sure you're picking that if it's available as much as possible. Again, last picks, you got the same old kind of Fang, the same old brawlers that you generically pick towards the end. Nanny can be a good counter option to those snipers. You know, Sprout can be a good counter, or at least a good matchup against Grom if your enemy picks it. Cole can be really good aggressively, you know, if the opponent has, I don't know, like a Squeak and a Throw, for example. Cole can be a really good option. There's a lot of different picks on Belle's Rock. Alright guys, it's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one. So it took a long time to make this. A couple of days, of course, playing the game for pretty much all day yesterday, and then doing the graphics and also the research today. So really appreciate you guys' support on this one. But let me know if this helps you out, of course. I didn't really go into detail about the draft because it would literally take like 4 or 5 minutes per map. So I just try to be concise and just talk about the picks and who I think are like the more dominant picks and who to be scared as a 6th pick. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. Going to be streaming most days in the week, just playing Power League and trying to learn the meta and draft myself and improve a lot more. So that's going to be it, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.